What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another video on the channel. And today I'm going to be going through my round 12 AFL tips and predictions, as well as going through my round 11 tips and predictions, and of course also the big call. So as usual, I'm going to get straight into what I got in round 11, and it was actually a pretty decent round for most people, assuming that they tipped the favourites. First game was between Bulldogs and Melbourne, and a bit of a disappointing game, this one. A lot of hype was built up for this game, but it failed to sort of live up to the hype. Melbourne got the job done quite easily, so I got that one incorrect. But then I got the next game correct between Geelong and Collingwood in a pretty crap game, not gonna lie. And next game between Brisbane and GWS, I got this one correct, although I didn't expect it to be this big of a margin. Next game we have the Saints v North Melbourne, another rubbish game, but I got the tip correct. I tipped the Saints. Between Gold Coast and Hawthorn, I also tipped Gold Coast and got that one correct. And then the up to the round by far, West Coast v Essendon, and Essendon got the job done at Optus. So brings me to a 4, I think, after the Saturday games. And I got the next 3 correct. I tipped the Tigers to beat the Crows, Swans to beat the Blues, and Power to beat the Dockers. So got 7 out of 9. It's not actually that bad of a score, but it's nothing special. And yeah, I'll go through my big calls now for the game. So the first game between Bulldogs and Melbourne, I predicted it to be 8 or more lead changes, and I don't think there was a single one, to be fair, so I got that one incorrect. In one of the worst games of the season, so up to date, I predicted there to be 22 or less goals scored in the game, and I got that one bang on. It was a rubbish game. 14 goals, 28 was scored combined between the two sides, so got that one bang on. The next game between Brisbane and GWS, my prediction was for McCluggage and Lions to combine for, I think, 65 or more touches. But they weren't really close to that figure at all, which was disappointing. And the next game between Saints and North, I predicted North to be in front at quarter time, and I guess I was glad I got that one incorrect. And then in the Gold Coast Hawthorn game, I was so pissed off because I predicted Ben King to kick 5 or more goals, and he ended up with 4 goals, 1. And the next game between West Coast and Essendon, I predicted there to be 9 or more goals scored in the first quarter. But only 5 were scored. So we move on to the Sunday game, and this one as well, arguably the closest big call that I got that wasn't correct. I predicted to be 10 more goals than behind scored throughout this game, and there ended up being 9 more goals than behind scored. So couldn't have been any closer, which is disappointing. And in the next game between Sydney and Carlton as well, I was super close. I predicted that the Swans would come back from 20 or more points and win the game, and they did just that. However, the highest margin they came back from was 18 points. So 1 out of 9 already means that I can't do the big calls. But I did get the last one correct in the Port v Dockers game. I did predict that the Dockers will go goalless at quarter time. So this is the most unluckiest I've been for the big calls all year, because I should have gotten 3 or 4 correct, but I only got the 2, which means, as usual, got to do a punishment. And this time I'll actually be doing it in this video, which is something I don't usually do. And I know which one it is. I'll quickly go and have a look. And for the 150th time, I swear, Geordie Pluto got the most likes, 123 likes, and his punishment was go to Woolworths and buy an eggplant and give it to a random person on the street. Alright. Here's the eggplant, $6.90 a kilo, so I don't know how much it's going to cost, but we'll put it in the bag, and then we'll get on to buying it.
Finalize your payment.
There we go. I've got a spare eggplant if you guys want one. Just maybe at home or something. I don't know if you do or not. I mean, maybe you could use it for cooking or something.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Alright, no worries. Cheers. Have a good day, guys. And before we do get into the tips, as usual, I'd like to quickly go through the tipping comp to see how everyone's going. So I always say it in every tipping video, but if you want to join it, search up Cardman22's tipping comp on ESPN Tipping, and most likely there'll be a $100 reward for the winner. And I'm currently 19th in the tipping comp, which is pretty good. I'll take that every day of the week. And the leaders, the top 5 are ESPN Fan 52694 123459199. I'm just not going to bother. Kane Devlin, excellent. The Back Flash, and Geordie Sco. Congratulations there. But yeah, let's get into the tips. If you want to join the tipping comp on ESPN Tipping, feel free to do so. But yeah, let's just get straight into it. So the first game, we said it last week that it was arguably game of the round, Melbourne v Bulldogs, but this is another one that's probably up there with games of the round. We've got Melbourne taking on the Brisbane Lions at Teo Traeger Park in Alice Springs. Now, I'm almost certain that this game will be played there. I don't know if they've changed it to the Gabba, and it will maybe affect my tip if they do, but it's going to be played at Teo Traeger Park, so I reckon it plays towards the Demons. They've got a little bit of advantage there. The D's were phenomenal against the Dogs on the weekend. They just, looked a lot better. They looked more classy, looked more skillful, and they just used the ball a lot more efficiently. They found the Dogs' weakness in that one, and they did a really good job. They won the game pretty easily by 28 points. And the Lions, they were arguably as impressive as the Dogs in that one. They convincingly beat the Giants by 64 points, and 34 scoring shots to 15. They probably could have won the game by more. They were way too strong. Didn't really catch the game, but it was an absolute smashing in that one. So probably one of the toughest games I've ever had to predict. In all honesty, I mean, I feel like the D's will probably have to come into this one as slight favourites. In terms of form, I could argue that the Lions have better form. I reckon these are the two most informed teams of the comp at the moment. So it's a very, very tough one to predict. I was leaning on the D's at the start, but I have a feeling that the Lions, they're just a little bit more classy and just a little bit more convincing at the moment. They're playing immaculate footy. They might be able to expose the D's. They've done it the past few years, and I feel like they could probably just break the D's in this one. But it'll be an absolute cracker of a game, hopefully. But I'm going to go, I don't know if this is an upset or not, but I'm going to go bold and tip the Lions by 9 points. And my big call is that there'll be 4 or less goals scored in the last quarter. I reckon that the last quarter will be a bit of a scrap and it'll be a tight contest. And the next game, we've got Sydney taking on St Kilda at the SCG. It was originally scheduled to be at Marvel, but obviously because of COVID and all that, they had to change it, which isn't so bad for the Saints because we play them again later in the year, so they'll just move that to Marvel. So it's good for us, but I guess in this way, it's just almost guarantees a loss. I mean, the Saints probably had our worst win that I can recall, honestly. It was the most unconvincing win I've ever watched. I mean, I watched that game thinking there are more problems than what we started with. If we kicked accurately to begin with, we could have beaten the Roos by over 10 goals easily, but that last quarter was so disappointing. The Roos kicked 5 goals to 1 in that quarter. They actually looked alright, and I was a bit disappointed. It was just a terrible quarter in that regard. And the Swans, well, they fought out a tough contest against the Blues for 3 quarters, but they just managed to hold the Blues off in that last quarter, and they went away pretty comfortable winners at the end by 22 points. I can't remember the last time we beat the Swans at the SCG, and the Swans have just been a terrible team for the Saints. We've only beaten them once since 2012, so it's just not been great for us. And look, whenever we win, whenever we lose big. We just don't look like having any chance against the Swans here. I'm a Saints fan. I know people say, don't tip against your team, but as Shannon would like to say,
stop tipping his own team. Stop tipping against his own team.
So because of that, I think it's pretty simple. I just can't back the Saints in. We're not in good form. Swans are in great form. Sydney will win the game by 28 points, and my big call is that the Swans kick 5 or more goals in a row at any stage of the game. And next up, we've got Adelaide taking on Collingwood at the Adelaide Oval. The Crows were pretty impressive against the Tigers. They took it up to them for most of the game, and they were in front in that first quarter was phenomenal from the Crows. I haven't seen them play much better footy throughout the whole year, but the Tigers, they're a classy outfit. I expected them to win. They got the job done, but the Crows, they're not losing any followers in that game. They were very impressive, whilst the Pies, well, at one stage they were 1 goal 14. It was a very hard game to watch. I did watch it, and I don't know why. It was a very poor game. It was one of the worst games I've seen in a while. Both teams lacked in foot skills, lacked in their ball movement. It was just a slow, boring game, and it honestly made me want to fall asleep. But the Pies almost actually ended up winning that game. They lost by the 10 at the end, so I don't know. It doesn't really give me much, that game, the Pies. They weren't impressive. The Crows were much better in that game. I think the Crows will be too classy at home. They'll get the job done by 21 points with my big call that Darcy Fogarty and Tex Walker combined for 7 or more goals. And the last game, well, it was supposed to be dream time at the G, but it's now dream time at the O. We've got Essendon taking on Richmond at Optus Stadium. 2 years in a row where this game had to be rescheduled, which sort of sucks, but I guess you can't really do much because of COVID. The Bombers were very, very impressive against the Eagles. They looked challenged up until half-time. I think they were down by as much as 26 points, but they just wanted to win that. They showed ferocity. They showed intensity. They were just absolutely awesome in that second half, and they just showed the guts to end up winning that one. Now I see them as a genuine finals contender. The Tigers as well, nothing too convincing from the Tigers, but they got the job done. Very impressive in that second half, or after quarter time, when they sort of looked done at one stage. But no, the Tigers did all right. Nothing too impressive, but nothing too poor from them. They just did what I expected them to do. This is going to turn out to be one hell of a contest. I mean, the Bombers are in, you could probably say, better form than the Tigers, but the Tigers, you know, they always find a way to get the job done, and it's hard to not back them, especially against the Bombers, which are one of the more inconsistent teams in the comp. So I don't know which Bombers outfit will come to play. I think the Tigers just will find a way to win this. I don't think they want to let this one slip. As much as I want to tip the Bombers, I'm going to go safe and tip the Tigers here by 13 points. With my big call, both teams will score over 100 points in a high-scoring thriller. Next game, we have Carlton taking on West Coast at the SCG. They did have to reschedule this one. It was originally meant to be played at the MCG. If you saw one of my recent videos, you'd know that the Eagles haven't won at the SCG this millennium. So I feel like this might play in Carlton's favour, especially considering they played at the SCG last week as well. But yeah, it's going to be tough, this one. I mean, the Eagles weren't great against the Bombers, let's be real. They should have got the job done. Now they're sitting themselves at 6-5, and there are real question marks on the Eagles this year. I mean, they haven't really been too impressive at all this year. Whilst the Blues as well, there are lots of question marks on how they finish games. I mean, they always contend well against these top 8 sides for a good chunk of majority of games, but then they seem to always slip away in the last quarter, and it seems to hurt them a lot. So I sort of feel for the Blues. They're just almost there, and I feel like, I don't know, maybe something up with their coaching, a few terrible moves in that game that I saw. So yeah, frustrating if you're a Blues fan, and this one, it's going to be very hard to back the Blues in after, you know, what we've seen in the first 11 rounds. And the Eagles, as much as they've been in poor form, I feel like they're just a bit more trustworthy. Even though it's at the SCG, they, for whatever reason, can't seem to play there. I think I'm going to go the Eagles in this one, and I'm going to back them in by 17 points. With my big call being that Carlton lead at halftime but lose. I just feel like it always happens in every game. Carlton do well, and then they do shit. And the last game of the round, we've got Fremantle taking on the Western Bulldogs at Optus Stadium. Now, I feel like this could be a pretty decent game. I know it's, you know, a 6:40 game at Optus. You know, people tend to not want to bother watching it, but Freo play Optus pretty well. I mean, they beat Sydney the other week. They beat GWS. They beat Hawthorn. Every game that Freo played at home with a crowd, they've got the job done. But the Bulldogs, they're at a different level. They're a lot better outfit. They're more classy. I know they dropped the game against the D's last week. I think we can all agree that they're a better side than the Dockers, even though it's away and it's going to be a tough challenge for the Dogs. Don't get me wrong. Playing the Dockers in Perth is no easy task, but I just don't think the Dockers have what it takes to beat the Dogs there. Definitely a top 4 side this year, and I'll be shocked if they do drop this one. Although it wouldn't surprise me if the Dockers do pinch this win, because it's the sort of thing they could end up doing. And if they win this, the Dockers, top 8 is still alive for them. But I think I'll go safe here, and I'll go the Dogs. I think they probably should win this game, and I'm going to go the Dogs to win this game by 16 points with my big call that Michael Walters kicks 4 or more goals in the game. So there you go, guys. Those were my round 12 AFL tips and predictions, and the video is probably going to be a bit shorter considering that I only covered 6 games instead of the 9. So with the big calls, I'm going to change it up a little bit, and instead of having to get 3 or more big calls, I'll only have to get 2 or more big calls for me to avoid a punishment. So if I get less than 2 big calls correct for this week, then I've got to do a punishment. And as usual, comment down below your punishments in the comments, and the ones that are most appropriate, that have the most likes, I'll have to do. Just like the one where I had to buy the eggplant and give it to some random person. But yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the support I've been getting on the channel. I really appreciate it. And if you enjoy these tipping videos, and if you're new, make sure to go subscribe to the channel. Leave a like if you enjoyed. And I'll see you guys very soon in my next video.